Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf, Nazir Yud Beis. We begin on Yud Aleph Amud Beis, 2 lines from the bottom. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak bar Yosef, Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Listen to this halacha. Ha'emer l'shluchi. Reuven instructs his shliach by the name of Shimon. He says, please do me a favor. Say v'kadesh li isha stam. Please go out and be mekadesh for me an isha. And Reuven did not specify with which isha. He didn't even tell him where she's meant to live. Any isha from any location. Pretty irresponsible, reckless thing to do. And Shimon, takes the ring. He's gone. Reuven has no idea what happened. Did Shimon fulfill his mission? Was he mekadesh somebody on behalf of Reuven? Who was that Isha? He'll never know. This fellow disappeared. He'll never see Shimon again. He has no idea. What is he meant to do? Says the Gemara, Asur b'chol hanashim sheba'olam. Going forward, Reuven cannot marry any Isha. You know why? Because there's always a chance that perhaps Leah, who he encounters today, who he chooses to marry today, happens to be the sister of Rachel, whom Shimon was already mekadesh on behalf of Reuven before. In which case, Rachel is Reuven's wife. Right? Unbeknownst to Reuven, Rachel is his wife, and now Leah, whom he encounters today and wants to marry, is none other than the sister of his real wife. One may not marry a relative of his wife. Asur b'chol hanashim sheba'olam. He cannot marry any woman out in the world. Chazaka, shliach, shlichus. There's an assumption, a chazaka, a shliach who accepts upon himself to do the job. He wouldn't have accepted if he wouldn't be doing it. He wasn't interested in doing it. We assume he carried out his shlichus. He married somebody on behalf of Reuven. So there's an issue of relatives. Since Shimon did not get back to Reuven and tell him who the Isha was, he'll never know. And since he doesn't know who his wife is, any Isha that he encounters going forward might be the relative of his wife, sister, mother, daughter. They're all asur. Tosfos asks a kasha. He says, well then, it's not just an issue for Reuven in terms of a relative of his wife. Anybody out there cannot marry anybody, because maybe that anybody is already married to Reuven. So he says no. Roiv, right? The formula of following majority dictates that since most nashim are not married to Reuven, there's one Isha married to Reuven. We don't know who she is, but most nashim are not. We follow Roiv, and of course, Isha that you meet today is mutter. We assume she's not Reuven's wife. But Reuven did something irresponsible, and therefore we apply a knas, a penalty. We penalize him, and that's the basis for Rabbi Yechon's halacha. Reuven himself, on account of this knas, cannot marry anybody for concern that she is, in fact, a relative of his wife, whose identity to him is right now unknown. Eisvei, here comes a kasha. Eisvei, Rish Lakish Rabbi Yehuda. Rish Lakish asked Rabbi Yehuda a kasha. So when a fellow acts in an irresponsible manner, you apply a knas. You don't allow him to follow roiv. You have a kan setuma. Kan is a pair of birds, which were designated for, the karbanos of azav, a yeledes, who need to bring a pair of birds. One is going to be designated and labeled as a chatas, the other one as an oila. It was a kan setuma, meaning he purchased a pair of birds for the sake of his karbanos. One was destined to be a chatas, one destined to be an oila, but as of yet, these birds were left undesignated, unlabeled. One of these birds flew away. Or it flew amongst the birds that are slated for misa, chatois, that lost their owners, in which case they're meant to be put to death. So this bird flew amongst those and got mixed in. Goodbye, you can't use it anymore. We don't know where it is. Or one of these two birds died. He's left with one. What do? You bring another one and you pair it up with the existing bird. Okay, that's because these birds were not yet designated, were not yet labeled in terms of what's a chatas, what's an oila. So you can still just redo it, bring another bird into the cage. You have two, and one will be a chatas, one an oila. However, in a case where the kan was already mufureshes, it had been designated, it had been set aside. This one's the chatas, the chubby one is the chatas, the less chubby one is the oila, and then one of them flies away, and you can't really figure out which one it was. When they're side by side, you can tell them apart, but when there's only one left, you can't really figure which one's the one that's left behind. So you don't know whether it's a chatas or an oila. Ein letakana, you're left without any remedy, because we don't know whether it's a chatas or an oila. Right? So the owner of the bird has an issue. But everybody out there, all the other birds out there, misaknan, are perfectly fine. Why? The fact is, somewhere out there in the world, amongst the world's birds, there is a bird which is a chatas belonging to this fellow. V'amai, why are they okay? Leimo kol chada v'chada, on every single bird that you find amongst the world bird population. Leimo kol chada v'chada dilma hainu. Maybe this is the missing bird. This is the chatas. This is the ayla. A person can't use somebody else's chatas. So how can anybody buy birds going forward and use that bird for his carbon? It's like the case of the Isha. So even though Raiv would dictate that it's okay, most birds are okay, but at least regarding this fellow, the bird owner, whose bird flew away, let's call him Reuven, he should have watched his birds better. He should have ensured that they don't fly away, and the fact that he didn't take that extra care would be justification for application of a knas. And he shouldn't be able to use the bird population out there for further use, for his own personal use, because perhaps there's a chata sitting out there. That was the kasha to Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda responds, there's a slight difference. It's a good comparison, but there's a slight difference, which explains why, in the case of the Isha, we're more machmer. I spoke about a case of an Isha who doesn't really move about. There's a halacha called kavua. When something is stationary, it has a base. For instance, meat in a meat store, that's called kavua. So even if there's most kosher, but when there's an element of kvius, something which is sitting in its place, connected to its natural habitat, so to speak, that is called kavua, and that is not easily batal, which means even if you have many factors against it, you don't follow the roiv. That element of kavua jumps in value. It's considered like 50% of the equation. In which case you don't have the roiv to be matter. That's the halacha we find by a non-kosher meat. Let's say a person finds a piece of meat in the street, sitting in the street. It's not connected to a mokem hakvius. It's not in a store. How do we treat that piece of meat? Well, roiv. If roiv in the city is okay, this is okay. But let's say he purchased a piece of meat from a given store. He's unsure of whether it was a kosher store or non-kosher store. In which case he relates to the source of the meat, the mokem hakvius, its home base, so to speak. In that case, we say that the even a small element of non-kosher meat, which is kavua, which is sitting in a store of non-kosher meat, that is regarded like 50% of the equation. You can't drive the roiv against it. And since his suffix is where he purchased the meat, so it's a question which relates to the meat pertaining to its home base. So that piece of meat gets chashivus, and you can't say, well, it's mutter because most stores are kosher. Even if one store is non-kosher, that store is regarded like 50% of the equation. It's mechza, and you're running into a suffix d'oraisa l'chumra. That's the idea of kavua. Here as well, he says, an isha is lo naida. She has a home base, and therefore there is more mokim lahachmer. Right? And Taisa says, even though it's not really completely kavua, because the fact is she does move around, she goes outside, it's similar to kavua, and that serves as basis, as justification for our chumrah, for our knas that we said before, which is applied to Reuven. Va'amrli at isura denai, and you comparing to me a case where it's a bird which flutters around, doesn't really have a home base. It's not really kavua. And therefore, there's less reason to make a knas. So the starting point is that really it's all mutter, because roiv is mutter. Roiv nashim are mutter, roiv birds are mutter. But there's a knas applied against this reckless individual. Says Rabbi Yechon, that's only provided there's another element which resembles kavua. And since we know that kavua undermines roiv, when it's really kavua, in this case, as long as it's similar to kavua, it resembles kavua, that provides basis for us to apply a chumrah. That gives like sort of a allows us to package the chumrah in a fashion that has precedent, so to speak, and makes it asr, as opposed to the bird which doesn't have the kviyus. Well, if you'll come back and tell me, the isha is also moving around. Maybe this fellow, the shliach, encountered the given isha on the street, and he was mekadesh there, not inside a house. The answer is hasam hadr l'nechusa. Even in that case, ultimately she comes back home to the nechusa, meaning to her stationary position, back into her home base. So there's an element of kavua there. Gabekan, as opposed to the birds, mihadr does it go back to home base, meaning bird is a transitory thing. It's it's a mobile entity. It's not something which has kavius, and therefore over there isn't even a makam, isn't even any basis for a chumrah to negate, which allows us to negate the roiv. So bottom line is, Rabbi Yehuda says a chiddush. We apply a knas to a fellow who sends a shliach out to be mekadesh meisha at random. So now Reuven, who sent Shimon as a shliach, cannot marry anybody out there because there's a chashash that isha that he's going to encounter today is actually a relative of the isha which was mekudesh on his behalf by Shimon. Says the Gemara, Amar Rav, of course, even Rabbi Yehuda would agree in the following case that it's mutter b'isha she'ein lo lebas. Let's say today Reuven goes and finds an isha. Let's call her Leah. Leah has no relatives. Ein lo lebas, no daughter. V'lei bas bas, no granddaughter. V'lei bas ben, no son that has a daughter. V'lei aim, doesn't have a mother. V'lei aim or a grandmother. Bottom line is, v'lei achais, no sister. Bottom line is, she has no relatives. The whole chashash was that Leah is a relative of his wife Rachel. Well, guess what? Leah has no relatives. She's not related to Rachel. So in this case, of course, Reuven is free to marry her. Listen to this chiddush. Suppose Reuven sent Shimon to be mekadesh and isha for him on Sunday. Okay. The following Sunday, Reuven meets Leah. He wants to be mekadesh her. Leah has no relatives to speak of. There's no chashash that she's a relative of Reuven's wife, because Leah is on her own. Here comes a chiddush. Even if Leah does have a sister, but the thing is that her sister, let's call her Rachel, had been in a married state last week Sunday, the day that Reuven sent out the shliach, and then she got divorced on Tuesday. Dahi Sharia. So now, next week Sunday, Reuven can marry Leah. Why? My timer. The answer is the Bahi Shaita the Ka'amrle. Because way back on Sunday when Reuven sent out Shimon to do the Kiddushin, Hava Nesiva Legavra. Rachel was unavailable. She was married to somebody at that point. Right? So Rachel could not have been the Isha that Shimon was Mekadesh for Reuven. In which case Leah is certainly not a sister of Reuven's wife. And although come Tuesday she got divorced, we are not choishish that Shimon waited until Tuesday to be Mekadesh Rachel for Reuven, in which case the following Sunday when Reuven meets Leah, she's really Rachel, his wife's sister. We're not concerned about that. You know why? Kimashvi inish shliach, because a person's mindset works like this. When you make a shliach, you're asking him to do something that's accessible now, available now. B'milsa the kaima kameh. It pertains to something which is available right now, which is right here. An isha who's unmarried now, that's what I had in mind. B'milsa like kaima kameh, but something which is not available now, such as, Rachel, who's currently married to somebody else. Lo mashvi shliach. That's not what he had in mind when he made a shliach. We're assuming he wants Shimon to go right away and get him somebody, not to wait until Tuesday. So we're not choishish that Shimon waited until Tuesday and was Mekadesh, Rachel after she got divorced. In which case, now when Reuven meets Leah a week later, she's actually his wife's sister. We're not choishish for that. Since Rachel was unavailable on the day of the shlichus, at that point she was married, she's out of the equation, in which case her sister Leah is free to marry Reuven. Asks the Gemara, really? That's the way a person thinks? Only something which is currently available is part of his equation? So not. Let's take a look at our Mishnah. Hareini Nazir. Reuven says, I am being a Nazir. Number one. Number two, I'm going to sponsor. I'm going to pay for the karbanis of another Nazir. That's Reuven. And then Shimon overhears Reuven's pledge. He gets inspired. And Shimon follows suit. Word for word. He says, Vani. First of all, I'm also becoming a Nazir. Number two, I'm going to sponsor the karbanis of another Nazir. Says the Mishnah. They can save on the deal. If they're really smart, they service each other. Reuven pays for Shimon's karbanis. Shimon pays for Reuven's karbanis. Question. Sorry, so let's just finish the Mishnah. But if they're not on top of things, they have to pay for other people's karbanis. Here comes the question. Let's go through the sequence of events. Reuven says, I'm going to be a Nazir. And I'm going to sponsor another Nazir's karbanis. Now, at this early point, Shimon was not a candidate. He wasn't yet a Nazir. And then Shimon comes into the picture and says, well, I also want to do the same thing. Number one, I want to be a Nazir. Number two, I'm going to sponsor a Nazir's karbanis. So, Bishlam Basra, regarding Shimon, Ikakadmo Kameh. By the time Shimon came along and committed, there was already a Nazir standing there. Reuven was already committed. So when Shimon promised to sponsor, he may as well sponsor Reuven's karbanis. Elakadma, but Reuven, when he sponsored, Mi'ika Basra Kameh, was there Shimon there? No. Reuven was before Shimon. So when Reuven promised to sponsor a Nazir's karbanis, he didn't have Shimon in mind. Right? So you can't say that his commitment pertains to Shimon. Shimon was not yet in existence. At least his Nazirus wasn't. So that's not his das. His das wasn't to address Shimon's karbanis, because when he made that commitment, Shimon was not yet a Nazir. So how could he exempt himself from his? How could he fulfill his pledge by paying for Shimon's karbanis? Gemara is comparing it to our case, that a person, his das is on what's here, what's available, not, down the road in the future. Ella hochi kamar. Oh, so Elama, you must say like this. When Reuben made his commitment, he meant like this. Ella hochi kamar. Imashkachna davi nazir agalchi. If I find, a nazir, I'll take care of him. Meaning, even if he undertakes to become a nazir later on, even if at this point right now Shimon is not yet a nazir, it's okay. It doesn't have to be here and available right now. I'm going to be megalech, a nazir, whether he's a nazir now, whether he's an upcoming nazir. Hachanami here as well, when it comes to the story of the kiddushin with the shliach, you're running into the same issue. Even if on Sunday, when Reuben sent out Shimon to do the kiddushin, Rachel was in a married state. Perhaps Reuben allowed Shimon, he meant to tell him like this: you mekadosh me an isha, whether she's available today or whether you have to wait a little bit. Use your discretion. In which case, there was a real chashash that Shimon did wait. He was mekadosh Rachel on Tuesday. In which case, the following Sunday, when Reuben meets Leah, Rachel's sister, there's an issue. Achos ishte. So back to the kash. Says the Gemara, Amri, the Bnei HaYeshiva responded. It's not a question of das, of kavana, of mindset. It's more than that. There's a halachic concern. Loi, mashvi, inish, shliach. The only way one can appoint a shliach is if this action is available to him. If this masa is within his reach. If I can do something, I can ask you, I can empower you as a shliach to do it for me. But it's something which I cannot do now, such as being mekadosh Rachel because she's already married. Something which I can't do now, le'mashvi, shliach. On that I can't empower a shliach. One point of making a shliach is to sort of hand you the keys. Here, go do it for me. Well, if I have the keys, I can give it to you. I don't yet have the keys. I can't be mekadosh Rachel who's now married, so I cannot possibly give you the allowance, give you the koyach, give you the authority to do it on my behalf, even if you wait until Tuesday. Because right now I'm transferring that authority. I don't have that authority myself. And that's why we're not concerned about Rachel's sister. Because Rachel was married, she wasn't a candidate for a kiddushin on Sunday. As opposed to the Nazir, well, I'm going to sponsor a Nazir, whether he's here now or will come tomorrow, it doesn't matter. Asks the Gemara of Allah, really? One cannot authorize a shliach to work on his behalf, even if it's something which he cannot do now? Right? So you cannot make a shliach for something you can't do? Wallahi? Tashma, here comes a raya to the contrary. Shalai, person instructs his administrator, his manager, he says, Kol nadarim shetadur ishtei, I want you to take care of my wife's vows. Any neder that she makes, mikano she'avi makim, she makes from, when I leave town until I come back. Hafarla, I want you to do hafar, to disrupt her nedarim. And the apotropos in this case is a shliach. He got up and says, I am disrupting, I'm canceling in advance any neder that your wife makes by power of attorney. Perhaps we should assume this works. Going forward, any neder that she makes during this duration, during this trip, while her husband is absent, gets cancelled in advance because of this hafara of the shliach. No, you can't make a shliach. Only the husband can do this. It's a personal thing. So theoretically it can work, but Torah clearly says it's a husband thing. You can't, it's a personal thing. You can't empower. You can't have a shliach do it for you. Rabbi Yehuda Kessler, no, there's no difference between this and other things. Just like we find anywhere else. when you appoint a shliach, his work is like your work. Over here as well, you can have an apotropos do the hafara for you, even in advance. Okay? Let's go back to Rabbi Isha. The only reason why it doesn't work is because of the pasuk, special drasha, Isha yikimenu, Isha yifirenu, it's a double lashon. Twice Isha is telling you only her husband could do it. That's the only issue. But if not for this pasuk, right? Let's talk theoretical. Otherwise, apotropos mefer. A shliach can do it for you, right? How could that happen? Now, regarding the husband himself, we learn that he can't do hafara in advance of the neder. A fellow addresses his wife as follows: all the darim that you'll make from when I leave until I come back from that place, I want them to stand. I want to confirm and certify them in advance. It doesn't work. There are several reasons in the Rishonim, either because the neder is not yet here to be confirmed, or because it's lacking in Gemiros Das. You can only certify something which you're aware of, in which case you're okay with it. You can't do this blindly. So hakama in advance? No. What about hafara in advance? Typically, a husband hears a neder that his wife makes, he can cancel it. What about in advance? Preempting the neder. He says to her, Aharein mufarin, anything you'll make from now on is cancelled. Does that work? Rabbi Lezer Omer mufar, yeah, it works. It cancels. So then when she'll make the neder, it explodes upon takeoff. Mufar, you cannot do hafar in advance. That's a machlekes and a mishnah regarding the husband. Chacham say you cannot do hafar in advance. Now we're figuring at this point. Let's go back to that other mishnah regarding the apotropos who was entrusted, who was given a koyach. We're assuming that we follow Shitas Rabbanan. Typically, even a husband cannot effect hafar in advance. Ki Amar Rabbi Isha. When Rabbi Isha tells us that it's only because of the pasuk, that the shliach cannot do that. Right? Otherwise, you can have a shliach. It's only because of the pasuk. Ali b'the Rabbanan. It's according to the Rabbanan, the Amri lematzi mefer. Let's assume he's following the consensus, the Shitas Rabbanan. A husband cannot preempt his wife's neder. You have to hear it to oppose it. You can't oppose it in advance. Now, it's clear in Rabbi Yesha's words, if not for this drasha, we would have no issue with the apotropos doing it. Apotropos have a mefer. Right? The question is how? If I, as a husband, can't, how could I ask you to do it for me? Apparently you can. Sometimes the husband could be stronger than the mishalech. So likewise in the case of the Kiddushin. Just because I can't be Mekadesh Rachel today on Sunday because she's married, perhaps I can ask you to do it for me and you'll wait until she's available. In which case, back to the kasha. How can I go marry Leah next week? Maybe she's a sister of my wife Rachel, who the shliach was mekadesh from Yan Tuesday. V'dum aliva the Rabbi Lezer says, no, you're making a mistake. Perhaps this whole discussion between Rabbi Yesha and Rabbi Yonasan is only according to Rabbi Lezer, the Amar Motzi Mefer, who holds that a husband can be mefer in advance. In which case, the shliach should be able to do the same. And in fact, that's what Rabbi Yonasan holds. And even Rabbi Yesha would agree in principle, if not for the pasuk. Right? So the kasha was, we see that you can use a shliach. Rabbi Yonasan certainly holds you use a shliach. And even Rabbi Yesha is only because of the pasuk. How could I use a shliach for something I cannot do? The answer is you could do it, like Rabbi Lazar. Ask the Gemara 1 second. So, if I as a husband can do the hafar in advance, why do I need the services of a shliach? I can just do it myself. Why does he have to get a shliach involved? Let the husband just do it himself in advance. Because somebody figures Dilma, Mishtalina, perhaps, on the way out, as he's leaving on his trip, he might forget, or Rasachna will be agitated with something, or Matridna will be sidetracked, he'll forget, he'll overlook the hafara. Therefore, he wants to ask a shliach to do it. A couple of days before he leaves on his trip, he gets a shliach to do it. And the husband doesn't want to do it right now because he doesn't want to cancel any nedarim from now until when he leaves on his trip. He wants it to start when he leaves on the trip, so he gets a shliach to do it for him. There's another question. Well, why can't he just make the... he'll just say, I want the hafara to happen from when I leave. So the Ran says it's better for him to have a shliach. This way he can revoke the shliach's authority in case he changes his mind, because if the husband himself does the hafara, that's it. He can't take that back. So he has it all worked out. So bottom line is, we have a chiddush. Rabbi Yehuda is mechadish, a chumrah. Reuven sent Shimon on a mission. Go be mekadesh for me and Isha. He never heard back from him. He has no idea if he was mekadesh, who he was mekadesh, where he was mekadesh. We apply a knas to Reuven for behaving so irresponsibly. He's usher to marry anybody for concern that she might be a relative of his Isha. But it only applies when the Isha that he's marrying today has relatives. But otherwise she's okay. And she's okay even if she has a sister, but the sister had been married on the day that Reuven did the shlichus. We assume that she's not, Leah is not his wife's sister, because, as we explained, ultimately you cannot appoint somebody to do something for you at a point in time where you can't do it yourself. Rachel on Sunday was off limits to Reuven, in which case he can't empower Shimon to be Mekadesh even post-divorce on Tuesday. So there's no question that Rachel wasn't the Isha Mekudesh to Reuven, in which case her sister Leah's mutter. Says the Mishnah, Reuven says, I'm committing to sponsor. Legalech means to sponsor the korbanos which come along with hair shaving at the end of the Naziris. I'm going to do a half a Nazir. And his friend hears him saying this. He says, okay, me too. Vani alai legalech hatzi Nazir. Me too. I'm going to be megalech half a Nazir. So suppose the full price of korbanos, is 100. He's committing to 50. Can he suffice with 50? No. Zeh megalech Nazir shalom. Reuven has to pay for the full korbanos of a Nazir. V'zeh megalech Nazir shalom, and likewise Shimon. Divrei Reb Meir. You can't just get away with half. You have to pay full price. Chacham Amrim, no. You committed to half, pay half. Zeh megalech chatzi Nazir. Reuven pays half the expenses of a Nazir is kiluach, and likewise Shimon v'zeh megalech chatzi Nazir. Amar Rav explains for us like this. There are three possible ways to commit to sponsoring korbanos, with three different halachas. Hakol moedim, all in the Mishnah. Rabbi Meir and the Rabbanan agree. Kol echad Amar, if a person gets up and says, Chatzi korbanos Nazir alai, half the korbanos expenses of a Nazir are upon me. There's no question in that case. He only pays half. Chatzi korban ma'asi, because I said half the korbanos of a Nazir, half the korbanos of a regular Nazir. So I pay half the korbanos. What if he says korbanos chatzi Nazir alai? I'm going to pay for the korbanos of half a Nazir. Well, there is no half a Nazir. In which case, we bump it up. Kulei korban boyesui has to pay full price, because he committed to sponsor korbanos of a Nazir. Half a Nazir? There's no half a Nazir. It's a full Nazir. My time, why is that? The leyashcha Nazir is the pag. There's no half a Nazir. So when do we have a machlekes in the Mishnah? Meaning in the first two cases it's pashut. Here it's certainly only half. All agree it's half. In the other case, all agree it's a full obligation. When is there a machlekes between Rabbi and the Rabbanan? Lishna the Masnissen pligi, in the lashon of our Mishnah. What did he say in the Mishnah? Let's take a look at the Mishnah again. Harei legalech. It is upon me. I am obligating myself to be megalech. Megalech means to sponsor the korbanos which go along with giluach. And he says chatzi Nazir, of a half a Nazir, which obviously doesn't work, right? No half a Nazir. The question is whether we'll take the chetzi and sort of relate it back to chetzi giluach. It's like he'll say, we'll read it as though he said harei alai chetzi giluach. That could work. But he didn't say it like that. He said, Arei L'Galeach, I'm going to sponsor, Giluach, of a Chatzi Nazir. So that's the machlekes. The question is regarding the lashon of the Mishnah. Two ways to understand the lashon. Hence the machlekes is between a mayor who savar holds given the amma harei alai. Once he says harei alai, legaleach ichayva kule. That triggers a kule carbon, a full sponsorship. A kule carbon is serious. V'chika amar chatzi nazir. And then when he continues, he says chatzi nazir. Well, too bad. Even if we should take the chatzi and bump it back to L'galeach, harei, chatzi giluach, it's too bad. You're switching tracks. Lav kol kamina, you can't change your commitment. This is based on Rameir's idea of tfos lashon rishon. When we have a conflict within your statement, we adopt the first element of your expression. When he says harei l'galeach, he means he's saying a full giluach. Then when he says chatzi nazir, you want to sort of take the chatzi and remodify what he said before. Apply it to the beginning of your declaration. That's too late. But Rabbanu Sarri disagreed. Neder pischa imuhu. It's true. Harei l'galeach is going on, the sponsorship of karbanis. A full sponsorship. Chatzi nazir, which really doesn't help him much because there's no half a nazir, but you want to take the chetzi and put it back to l'galeach. So you want to sort of bump the word chetzi back to l'galeach. Want to change what he said. Okay, we take that. Neder pischa imuhu. Or pesach imuhu. It's like a person says a neder and then he goes back and he finds a way out, a release mechanism, charata, etc. Here as well, he started by saying one thing, but then he interprets and he explains himself. That's fair. So there's only chayiv, half sponsorship. Okay, so we had Rabbi Yechon's chiddush with the mekadesh leisha. We have the chazaka shliach ha'isish lechusay. We apply a knas. We ignore the roiv, and we make him usher on anybody. And the Gemara tells us it's because there's an element of kavua which typically would get in the way of roiv. Here it's not fully kavua, but Tosfos says it's doimit to kavua, which allows us to be machmer on this fellow, as opposed to the case of the birds, where perhaps we should be machmer as well. But over there it's totally fluttering, it's flying around. There's no element of permanence, and therefore there's no basis for chumrah. The Gemara tells us an interesting concept in shlichus. You can only empower in as much as it's within your ability. We discussed the machlekes regarding hafara in advance. Rabbi Lezer says it works. Chacham say it doesn't work. What about using a shliach for hafara in advance? For hafara at all? Rabbi Nissen says you could. Shluchas l'adam k'maisei. Rabbi Yishai says no. Isha yikimenu, isha yifrenu. It's something personal. We had the Mishnah with 3 cases. The way Rabbi explained it, it could manifest in 3 cases. I'm paying half the karbanis of a nazir. He only owes 50%. I'm paying karbanis of half a nazir, 100%. When he says harei l'galeh chatzi nazir, we have a machlekes in terms of how to interpret what he said. 50% or 100%. Maybe we'll have siyata d'shmaya, hear b'surus toves, and lots of atzlacha.